Thank you, Les Concorda. The Fiscal Responsibility Amendment Bill 2019 would see opposition spending demands and fiscal proposals scrutinised by the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council, IFAC, ahead of every budget. As my colleague Deputy Peter Burke outlined earlier this year, Fianna Fáil made spending demands worth €4.35 billion in the first 6 months of this year alone. This motivated me to introduce this bill. I believe, given the chance, Fianna Fáil would lead this country down the path to financial ruin again. Their only clear policy is more spending demands at every juncture. The absence of coherent, well-thought-out policies coming from opposition was made clear by Deputy Colin Brophy recently when he outlined that just 5 of 22 Fianna Fáil frontbench TDs have produced policy papers since 2016, proving that Fianna Fáil is an empty vessel, lacking plans and policies for a whole range of issues from Brexit to health, housing, broadband, climate, jobs, childcare, to name but a few. The purpose of my bill is to amend the Irish Fiscal Responsibility Act 2012 to allow for the Irish Fiscal Advisory Council to assess the policies and proposals of opposition political parties in advance of each budget and to report on whether their approach is conducive to prudent economic and budgetary management. This assessment will be published no later than the second Monday of September each year. This is something that I raised previously at the Budgetary Oversight Committee with both my colleague Minister Pascal Donoghue, Minister of Finance, and the Chairman of IFAC, Seamus Coffey, who suggested that it was something that he felt should be implemented in Ireland in line with other European countries. That is the general practice. Having an independent expert analysis of opposition spending calls and financial policies is important, so the public is well informed. And I'd be surprised if anybody in the House disagreed with that, unless it doesn't suit certain opposition purposes. But this is the case now more than ever that it's important in the face of opposition's constant stream of spending demands, which they seem to pluck from thin air to hide the fact that they have no plans and no solutions. They promise spending to each and every interest group and lobby group that they meet, with no plan on how to do this or how to balance the country's finances, and are not held to account for it. Despite the evidence that the Fianna Fáil party has called for €24 million of increased extra spending every day in the first half of this year, not a single Fianna Fáil representative has yet explained how the taxpayer would fund their reckless spending pledges. Deputy Micheál Martin has been asked on many occasions, but instead of answering the pertinent questions, has resorted to deflection, saying it's juvenile and childish. Deputy Martin and his TDs may think that making wild spending calls day in, day out is a trivial matter, but voters do not share that view. Given a body like IFAC the power to examine all opposition spending calls will help to ensure that this type of cynical politics is held to account and shown up for what it is. It is interesting to note that when I made the call for opposition parties' plans to be assessed by IFAC, Fianna Fáil simply dismissed it as childish. But in 2015, Fianna Fáil produced their own private member's bill, in which Deputy Michael McGrath's own words would mandate the Fiscal Council to carry out analysis on behalf of the qualifying political parties in relation to the effect that manifesto proposals would, in the opinion of the Fiscal Council, have on the budgetary position of the state in advance of a general election, and also would be extended to pre-budget proposals on an annual basis. That private member's bill fell at the last general election, and despite a number of years in continued opposition, Fianna Fáil have failed to ever, maybe unsurprisingly, reintroduce it or bring it back. So, this ties in with a whole lack of policy approach from the opposition, but really what this bill is about is ensuring that when promises are made to different interest groups, that it is clearly explained how that money, first of all, what it would cost and how that money would be raised. This ties in with Fianna Fáil's lack of policy around a whole range of issues. Micheál Martin has made recent speeches on housing, where over the past month he has been proposing a series of housing initiatives that simply don't stack up. Some are against the law or unimplementable, others are already in place. Other proposals are vaguely costed, and Fianna Fáil has yet to give us an idea how they would pay for them. But even more worryingly, 2 of the measures are illegal. It's more than 600 days since Fianna Fáil promised to publish a housing policy. In the time that we've been waiting for that policy from Fianna Fáil and the opposition as to how they would do things differently, we've delivered thousands of houses and homes. Similarly, in broadband, we were told that Fianna Fáil were totally opposed to the National Broadband Plan, but they were very much in favour of broadband to every house. But they didn't explain what their plan was to deliver broadband, but just insisted that delivery was a priority. When the contract was signed by government last week, Fianna Fáil quietly dropped their bizarre opposition to the most significant investment in rural Ireland in decades. My bill today, Les Concorda, is about improving accountability to all sides of this House, our Parliament. Many people are looking in this dull term of new politics to see if it is an improvement, or if indeed very different at all. This bill, I believe, would ensure that opposition parties will be forced to live up to their responsibility to the public. That if they are going to promise billions of euros of extra spending, that they can say where that money will come from. And that is the simple purpose of my bill here, and I commend the bill to the House. Thank you.
Right. Has the bill been opposed? No. The bill has not been opposed. So the motion for leave to introduce the bill is agreed. And I would ask the Deputy to move that the second stage be taken in private members' time. Is that agreed? Agreed.